So by the 1975-76 season, the LA Kings had arrived as a sensational team. They had great fan base in California, across Canada because of the numerous Canadians on the squad. Rogie Vachon, Marcel Dionne, the whole crew. But ladies and gentlemen, when they defeated Atlanta in the first round of the 76 playoffs and played Boston in the second round, a lot of people felt that the Kings had no chance because Boston had earned 8 of 10 points in head-to-head games in the regular season. But some weird configuration events stopped the Bruins from taking into 4 games, and it went all the way into 7 games in a series that featured 3 shutouts by the Bruins and a whacking of the Kings. But the Kings in the close games came out on top. Now, the series started in LA. Bruins got the first shutout of the series with Jules Gilbert taking the blank. Ken Hodge, Jean Rattel, Dave Forbes, and Jean Rattel with second scored for the victors. But in Game 2, after a very, very strong start by the Bruins, leading 1-0 after first, Marcel Dionne was first of the series, tied up at 3:08. Now, Busey put him ahead 2-1, but from there on, it was Marcel Dionne at 6:53, and the money player, and remember this name, the future 4-time champion with the Islanders, Butch Goring, scored at 27 seconds of the first overtime to give them a 3-2 victory. Now, in Game 3, played at the Fabulous Forum, it was Greg Shepard gave Boston an early 1-0 lead, which was added by Brad Park's first at 7:37 of the first. Then Mike Murphy and Marcel Dionne, his third of the series, tied at 2-2 after 1. Dionne put the Crowns ahead at 2:21 of the second, while Marcotte tied it up 3-3, entering the third. But Dionne, his natural hat trick, Don Kozak and Bob Nevin put them ahead 6-3, with, of all people, Dallas Smith making 6-4 late in the contest. Now, a lot of people felt that Game 4 would decide the series, and generally it did. The Bruins got another shutout, this time by Jerry Cheevers, as Greg Shepard, Jean Rattel, and Don Marcotte, scoring individually in the first, second, and third period, did it for the Bruins. Now, in Game 5, back in Boston, the Kings took an early 1-0 lead, but they peppered Gary Edwards for most of the game. Don't know exactly why Edwards was chosen to start. That was a big mistake, as Marcotte, Schmaltz, Ken Hodge, Brad Park, Rattel, Park with second, and Terry O'Reilly clobbered the Kings in a 7-1. Now, in Game 5, probably the most important game at the Forum, up until then, they got a massive standing ovation at the start of the contest. Now, what happened? Tommy Williams scored his second of the series at 21 seconds. Second of the playoffs at 21 seconds, with Bobby Schwantz, Daryl Anderstrand, and Greg Shepard putting them ahead 3-1 after the second. But of all people, Mike Corrigan at 10:50, and he scored the tying goal, literally sprawled out a backhander, a seeing eye backhander of a Jerry Cheevers to put the puck in the net. Now, after the first 18 minutes of overtime, of all people, the great hero Butch Goring would score his second in the postseason and his second overtime counter, with Cheevers stopping 32-36, and Rogie stood his head to win. Now, Game 7, the first 30 minutes went scoreless before Jean Rattel, then Ken Hodge at 12:21 scored in the power play, and Rattel again, the 7th of the postseason, to put the insurance in. The Kings had no energy in the last game, as they only had 15 saves in that contest. Now, the LA Kings of 1975-76 finished, of all things, second place in Montreal. Now, if you would have bet Boston, it probably would have been a Montreal Canadiens LA Kings final, because the Flyers were quite strong that year. Now, LA finished the season 38, 33, and 9. And unlike the big three, Charlie, Sember, Taylor, and Dionne, what really helped them was a Fabulous Forum. They went 22, 13, and 5 at home. They were actually -2 on the score sheet. Now, led by Bald Pulford and captain Mike Murphy, Dionne had a big season, 94 points, including 40 goals, while Rogie had 26 victories. Now, this was a very interesting team, ladies and gentlemen, because they had a mixture of new players and young players that were basically very, very energetic. Now, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, they only scored 3 goals in the mini best of 3 against the Flames, but they won in 2 straight. Now, the idea of the the regular season. Now, unlike the prior season, the Kings started fast. After the first 2 games in '76, they were 0-2-0 and had been outscored 16-0. It was later revealed that goalie Rogie Vachon was playing with flu-like virus relating to all things typhus. Vachon recovered. The Kings won 10 of their next 12 games to right the ship. However, they played 500 hockey the rest of the way and finished 27 points by the Habs. Now, Terry Harper was the big loss. He missed his leadership and defense, and Dan Maloney's tough guy presence. Now, a number of players missed significant time with injuries, and the club actually scored, again, fewer goals than the year before, despite the addition of Dionne. This was Marcel's first season. So, like I said, it was a mishmash of veteran and young players. We're going to look at the roster, and a lot of the names going to ring a bell, because they were some university prospects. Some big junior players are giving a second look. Now, that year, Goring had 33 goals, and he was seeing him carry off the ice in Game 6 after scoring the winner with just a classic. Now, Mike Murphy was on the team, Bob Nevin, Don Kozak, who scored 20, the great Vic Vanaski had 18, Corrigan had 22, Bob Berry, the original Hab that ended up in L.A., had 20, Tommy Williams had 19, Bob Murdoch, who came over from Montreal, had 6 counters, the great Frank Saint-Marseille had 10 goals, the Aboriginal superstar Gary Sargent had 24 points, Whitey Whiting had 7 goals and 22 assists, the speedster Gene Carr had 19 points, Neil Komodowski, Sheldon Cannigeezer, Dave Hutchinson, Abe DeMarco, Larry Brown, Dennis Abral, Bart Crashley, the veteran, Jim Witherspoon, Bert Wilson, Gary Edwards, who played 29 games, and Rogie Vachon, who played 51. Now, Edwards was a bad choice to bring him in. But, ladies and gentlemen, what's interesting about the LA Kings, they're almost a completely Canadian squad. At the time, the only, I think, 2 players that were outside Canada was Whitey Whiting and Abe DeMarco, who left the team early part of the season. So, ladies and gentlemen, what a great season for the Kings. Those golden jerseys really stand out. And the words of the RCA dealer at the department store in Dalhousie, New Brunswick, don't worry, the color TV will compensate for the Kings. Because you had a bad color TV, it would drive you nuts, because, I mean, their jerseys were golden from top to bottom. You know, it's like a very, very tepid glass of orange juice skating up and down the rink. But seeing Butch Goring scored his 2 overtime goals, that was the straw that stirred the drink when he brought him over for the Islanders. I don't know why they ever traded him, ladies and gentlemen. So the LA Kings, the greatness of 75-76, will live on in California sports history. Have a good one.